All right, everybody. How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? Absolutely amazing chapter. This is God Valley is already living up to the hype. It's already living up to the hype. Um, this is like this was Garp's moment. I imagine I imagine everyone's gonna look good over the course of this. But this chapter definitely, Garp was definitely the star of this. Um, uh, all right. 1 second here. Yeah, Garp was definitely the star of this chapter. I mean, you could argue Rayleigh. You could argue. I think Rayleigh was dramatically the star of this chapter, but Garp, in terms of just sheer hype and what everyone's gonna be talking about, it was Garp. Let's get stream likes up to 50 real quick. Carnage, thanks for the 10. Where is Garling at? His kids are being kidnapped, and the woman he wants to marry is being freed. Also, was that Edward, no scars on his back, Newgate, running away from Garp? Okay, so how do I say this? I'm seeing a lot of Whitebeard slander here. You guys got to remember, Whitebeard's goal is not to. Okay, so it's been. How do I explain this? I don't know if people are just memeing or if people are being serious about talking about Whitebeard running away, the no scars on his back and stuff. It's always been established in One Piece that there's a big difference um, between like actually running away once you're in a fight that matters versus and like backing down versus choosing not to fight. It is okay to choose not to fight. Who's read chapter 1 of One Piece? Tell me if you've read chapter 1 of One Piece. Have you read chapter 1 of One Piece? Who's read chapter 1? What does chapter 1 teach us? Do you need to get involved in every fight? No, right? You don't need to get involved in every fight. Okay? Whitebeard never engaged Garp here. The simple way to put it is Whitebeard's goal right now is to go save Shaki, right? His goal is to go save Shaki. That is what he is there for. He's not there to fight every single person there just for the sake of it. He's just there to save Shaki. It's the same way, if you think about it, at Marineford, Whitebeard had started fighting Aokiji, right? He had started fighting Aokiji, but his goal is not to beat Aokiji. His goal is just to get to Ace. So he's fighting Aokiji, then Jozu interrupts, Whitebeard continues on and leaves. He leaves the fight with Aokiji because he's not there to fight Aokiji. That's not the point. Even in Oden's flashback, Oden began to notice like, oh, Whitebeard tends to not try to fight the Marines. Why? Because Whitebeard's not going to get into fights for no reason. Choosing not to fight a pointless fight is not the same as the message Oda's trying to paint with the no scars on your back. Like, once Whitebeard hunkers down and is like, I'm in it, that's when you see, like, that's why he has no scars on his back, right? That's the message that the narrator is trying to push. But nobody in One Piece is literally like no character in One Piece is literally like, I'm never, ever, or I'm going to take every single fight ever. I'm never, ever going to run away. That's not a thing. That's the story. Characters' storylines could literally never progress. They would be so fucking stuck all the time if every single character, weak or strong, that they run into that wants to fight them, they have to fight. That doesn't make any fucking sense. This is the same like, this is literally I know it looks visually different, but in terms of why it's happening, this is the same thing as Whitebeard choosing not to stick around to fight Aokiji all day at Marineford. It's the same exact thing. He's not gonna. His goal is to go save Ace. His goal is to go save Shaki. He's not just gonna be like, oh well, Garp challenged me, so I have to waste time fighting Garp. Does that make sense? So I think it's kind of a dumb argument, but I don't know. I just think it's kind of a dumb argument. Bubble Bass's technicalities? No, it's because we're not arguing a legal case here. You're trying to get the spirit of what the author is trying to establish, right? The spirit of what the author is trying to establish is that when Whitebeard is like Whitebeard is not going to back down from something that means something, right? That doesn't mean that Whitebeard is going to engage in every single battle for no reason. Like, literally from the very beginning, again, like, very beginning of the story, that's established. Like, you don't need, like, it doesn't, there's no shame in not wanting to fight. There's no shame in not wanting to fight. Just go read chapter 1. That's like established right away. But if you like look at the Shanks dichotomy, right? Chapter 1, he's not going to fight Higuma because there's no point in fighting Higuma. But chapter like 580, he will fight everyone at Marineford if they want to fight him, because once you've stepped up to that challenge, you're going to step up to that challenge. That's the messaging that Oda's kind of playing out with all this. So I think it's weird that people are playing dumb with this. Like, again, like we've already seen this from Whitebeard. He already said that, like, you know, I'm not going to fight the Marines. We saw that in Oden's flashback. He's not going to fight the Marines. In fact, that perfectly illustrates it, right? In the Oden flashback, Whitebeard's not going to fight the Marines for the sake of fighting the Marines. Like, Oden even talks about how, like, oh, I realized that even Whitebeard has like enemies that he'd rather not fight, that he will run from, right? So Whitebeard will run from the Marines. But if he actually needs to fight the Marines, that's what the entire fucking Marineford war is. Like, he will go to war with the entire fucking Marine force if need be. But that doesn't mean that he's not going to turn tail and run from them if there's no reason for him to be fighting them. You see what I'm saying? I think people are, I don't know if people are being serious or not. So I don't know how much I need to put into this defense. But anyway. Royalty says, why did he clash with Roger and not Garp? Because what's Whitebeard's goal? What's Whitebeard's goal? Someone trying to, like, reading comprehension. What's Whitebeard's goal? GDN says, sorry. Nerve V Maker, thanks for the 5. What adds to Garp's aura is that he's just a pure brawler, no devil fruit or weapon. He just jumps into a crowd of Yonkos and starts swinging. Yeah, this is not to undermine Garp. In fact, I just recorded a full long-ass video about Garp that's going up next Tuesday. I think I've underrated Garp for some time. Garp is that dude. Garp is just that dude. I think in the past, whenever it's come to rankings, like you can look at my past all-time rankings and stuff, when it's come to rankings, I think I have tended to be like, okay, I can't just have everyone tied at like Pirate King level. So I'm like, okay, I've always felt like Prime Roger, Prime Whitebeard might be like, if they're exact equals, then maybe Garp's just like 0.1 weaker than them or something. Because I'm like, are they all equals? But now I don't know about that. Now I'm just like, okay, now I'm leaning towards actually maybe Roger and Garp are equals and Whitebeard was third. Obviously not everyone's necessarily, we can debate primes and stuff later or whatever, but I'm just like, fuck it. At this moment in time, it looks like Garp's number 1, you know? GDN, thanks for the 5. Whitebeard had no scar on his back. Fans, he never ran. Oda, he ran away with such speed and skill his foes couldn't land a hit. Yeah. Yeah. Whitebeard's goal is to save Shaki, right? Which means that the people in his way right now are the Roger Pirates, who are also trying to go after Shaki, right? So the Roger Pirates, Whitebeard, they're all converging right there, right? Whitebeard has no business fighting a strong Marine like Garp right there, because why would you get caught up doing that when you're not even fucking physically close to Shaki? You'd be stuck at the outskirts of the island. Yeah, Garp just goes into a crowd of Yonkos and starts swinging. Yeah, Garp is awesome. I am confident now, very, very confident at this point in time that, so I've always felt like end of story Luffy will basically be equal to Roger without his devil fruit. And then the devil fruit is what puts Luffy over the top, right? Does that make sense? So like, I feel like just pure Haki, end of story Luffy, that's kind of his ceiling. That's kind of what it's supposed to look like. That's kind of Luffy's ceiling. Okay. Like let's say like end of story Luffy equal to like Pirate King level, right? Let's say Pirate King level with no fruit, then with fruit that makes him Joy Boy level. That's kind of how I viewed it. So now my understanding, I think it's all just kind of clicked for me, is basically like end of story Luffy, like base Luffy, no gears, nothing. Base Luffy, end of story, he should be Garp. He's Garp. That's what Luffy end of story should look like. He should just be Garp. That's base Luffy right there. Base Luffy should essentially be Garp by the end of the story, because that is just like if Luffy just had to go at it with just his fists, right? Just his fists, okay? He's still Pirate King level. I think that's the way I view it. That just makes sense. That makes sense to me now. I'm saying thanks for the 10. The fact that the Shaki plot is concluded this early has got me very intrigued in what is about to happen. It clearly won't be over the prize of God Valley. Yeah, so I just finished my chapter review, and I just talked about. I mean, I can share it here. But sorry. I still strongly believe that Emu is coming to God Valley, and to me, this practically confirms it, because the plot of Save Shaki and everything, that was just what Oda fed us initially as kind of like Oda's way of hiding his hand. Like, what is the real story of God Valley? What does the battle really erupt into? It starts with just pirates wanting to plunder to get treasure, to get a woman back, right? Roger pirates, they're just trying to get their girl or whatever. It starts for kind of, and Garp's there just because he wants to fight Roger, right? So it starts for kind of like almost petty reasons, right? And it feels like the plot that we were sold has practically resolved. The only thing missing is the devil fruits themselves, right? But the thing that's missing is Rocks and versus Roger and Garp together, right? What happens there? That's the big mystery. And even if that battle doesn't happen, because maybe Sengoku got wrong information about that, what is the battle that happened then? Because the real meat of this thing hasn't yet kicked off. Oh, Carnage, I didn't answer this first part of your super, by the way. Where is Garling at? Yeah, like, that's a really good point. I don't know where Garling is at, but that's a big indicator that we haven't even gotten to the main part of the God Valley incident, because so far, Garling has kind of been the villain behind this whole thing. So we are going to likely, like, things really haven't gone down till we actually see Garling in play, and who's Garling going to fight, and how's that situation going to go down, right? So I think that, how do I say this? I think that we're set for, like, the other shoe to drop, and for everything to really explode into a much, much bigger conflict than it seemed like so far. Let's get the streamlights up to 100 real quick, because we're almost there. Titanium Dragon, thanks for the 5. Rocks didn't mention Buggy, so my theory of Buggy being Rocks reincarnated or something like that is back in full force. Also, Whitebeard slander is so stupid. Yeah, I feel like Whitebeard's proved enough through Marineford. Like, what more do you want, man? Like, if you want Whitebeard to stand up and, like, fight all the Marines, he's already done that, you know? Like, he's been there. We had a whole fucking story arc. Whitebeard rolled up with literally the most, it was literally like, it was like LeBron rolling up with, like, the 2018 Cavs to take on the Warriors, right? That's basically what Marineford was, you know? Like, no disrespect to, like, Marco and Jozo and Vista. They're perfectly admirable Yonko commanders, but, like, you got like 15 Admiral level characters plus over on the other side, you know? Like if you want, I don't know why people are getting upset about the Whitebeard thing, because it's like, we've already seen that if it comes down to it and he needs to fight Marines, he will fight all the Marines at the same time when he's on life support. He will do it. Like, that's the messaging behind Whitebeard. Right here, this is Goonbeard. He's just trying to get to his girl, and he knows that all these other pirates are also trying to get to the same girl. Leave him be, you know? Leave him be. Duck20, thanks for the 2. I pray the love theme centers around Usopp/Yasop. I mean, I guess, as in, like, Yasop literally says what he loves. He says he loves the sea. And that's why he can't go back to his kids, his wife and child. So, yeah, there is a love theme, but it's not directed towards Usopp. Amr Yasser, thanks a lot. One Piece fighting style tier list based on coolness. Oh, that's a cool idea. You know what? I'm putting that in the ideas document. Hold on. Tier list based on... what is it? Tier list based on coolest fighting styles. Yeah, no, Garp's is something else. He's the first true Haki man in One Piece. Henchme 976. Again, Garp, I realize now, that's just what Garp represents. It's like, Garp represents Prime Luffy without any gears or devil fruit or whatever. Like, that's what Garp is basically, like, Prime Garp is what base Luffy will look like in the future. Which is kind of insane. Base Luffy would be equal to Prime Garp. I think that's what we're looking at. End of story. Also, this has me reevaluating some, this whole thing has me reevaluating, some things more, okay? I think, no, I don't need to go into that right now. Henchme976, thanks for the 5. Morge, what do you think of the argument that Dragon can't have a Zoan because he used his wind powers in human form in Loketown and Goa? Uses wind powers in human form. Oh, that's a... Fuck. That's a good point. Oh my god. But at the same time, like, with mythical Zoans and shit, it's like... I think there's some vagueness to it. For example, it's established that Kaido actually has dragon scales in human form as well. Luffy can use his rubber powers in human form. I know it's not exactly the same thing, but I think the way Oda's written mythical Zoans, it's just to have some leeway to do whatever he wants. So, but, you know, look, let's be real. At the end of the day, the likely, fruit the dragon is going to have, if we just have to bet money, it's the wind fruit, right? Like, that's the simple, we know a wind fruit probably exists in One Piece. Nobody has a wind fruit so far. Dragon is heavily associated with the wind. His color is green, which oftentimes in fiction, like, if you're going with, like, elemental colors, can be associated with the wind. Often, you know, that's a frequent thing. And, like, he fucking, like, the wind's always blowing and shit around him. Like, it's the easy money is on wind. It's kind of just like, okay, this deep in the story, it'd be fun if he had something different, like a crazy forest god fruit or something. But wind fruit is perfectly fine. Wind fruit is good. Let's get Streamlabs up to 100 real quick. Didn't Marco use the flames in human form? Yeah, Marco did. That's a really good point. Marco did use, we've seen Marco use his flames and stuff like that in human form. Marco's a really interesting Zoan situation, because, like, no, I guess this is just how mythical Zoans work, because, like, or some I think Oda's just a little unclear about it, because, like, Luffy doesn't have a hybrid form, for example, you know? And then Marco has never had the traditional hybrid form when it comes to his Zoan fruit. It's always been, like, his human form, and then the bird form, and then Marco will transform varying degrees of his body into the bird form. But that's not usually what a hybrid form is. A hybrid form is usually like some sort of a mix between the human form and the Zoan form. So, you know, there's, I guess, just some exceptions to the thing. I'm saying thanks to the 5. So is Captain John Kid's dad, because that's low-key a downscale. P.S. Garp this chapter is a Vinsmoke Romeo upscale. Yeah, most everything happening at God Valley right now, hard upscales Vinsmoke Romeo. Is Captain John Kid's dad? Captain John Kid's dad? I don't know if Captain John's kid's dad, but there is one very major reveal this chapter regarding Captain John that to me changes everything. And it's not going to be next Tuesday's video, so I'm not sure where to fit it in. I might fit it in during a break week, but it's something I don't see anybody discussing. I think this is it's really, really interesting. I think it's really interesting. There's something big that was revealed for Captain John this chapter that changes everything. I'm not going to discuss it right here. But it's just the reveal that he has a fruit changes everything. That does seem to be what it is, right? It does seem like he has a fruit, right? I'm not crazy. Let's get the Streamlabs up to 100 real quick, because we're almost there. The Lowman, thanks for the 5. Garp really had Big Mom, Kaido, and Whitebeard running. All frauds. Garp greater than all of them. Yeah. I got nothing to say. Garp is just him. I feel like... yeah. I don't know. I feel like Garp is just him. Again, if I were to say how close these characters are to their primes, Whitebeard right now is definitely stronger than Marineford Whitebeard. No question stronger than Marineford Whitebeard. So this is very impressive. Big Mom, I imagine, is like probably like Admiral level or something at this point. And then Kaido maybe not quite there. But Kaido, I don't think is that far off either, because I think Kaido scales in terms of age to Odin. From what we've seen, like Kaido and Odin being about equal, they're the same age. And Odin was already a monster. Oh my god. Even not that far back. So that's some stuff to consider, but yeah. Yeah, Whitebeard is confirmed stronger than his Marine Ford self because, he's clashing with Roger and everything. There's Conqueror's Haki shit coming out. Like, Whitebeard and Marine Ford literally couldn't walk 10 steps without having heart attacks. So, and Whitebeard already showed that he can use his fruit the same way he did in Marine Ford. But yeah, this Whitebeard is definitely weaker than the Whitebeard in Odin's flashback, right? So we're giving him some grace. There was a One Piece magazine that said that Whitebeard reached his peak 2 years after God Valley, right? So he's still got a little bit of a ways to go. Mr. MMF2, thanks a lot. Yo, Lord Jussie, the Garp was holding back argument is officially dead. Also, Garp was holding back argument? What? Also, why is Oda portraying Sommers like the most heinous villain in the story? The Garp was holding back argument is officially dead. Garp was holding back what? Spirit of Adventure says, but he fought Roger, though. I think... Okay. Here's my views, all right? I think Garp right now is at his peak. And that makes sense. Garp is also the oldest of this, this bunch in terms of Garp, Roger, Whitebeard, okay? Garp right now is at his peak, okay? I think Roger right now is maybe a tiny bit shy of Garp in terms of, like, I don't think Roger is quite at his peak yet because I personally, and I've said this so many times in streams, at all, like, videos, chapter reviews, etc., I believe Roger reaches his peak by the end of God Valley. I think this battle, like, we know what the battle turns into, right? Roger, Garp, supposedly versus Rocks, with maybe Emu's involved. This, and, like, Roger's legend really explodes in the years after this, right? Like, after this, everybody kind of talks about Roger as the #1 pirate on the seas. Shiki considers Roger #1. Kaido talks about Roger's Haki and everything after this. Like, this is it's post this that Roger's legend really blows up. And this is when Rocks kind of passes the torch to Roger, and it stops being Rocks' era, it starts being Roger's, right? So, my take is just that we know... How do you get stronger? It's Haki blooms. That's confirmed in One Piece. Haki blooms can only happen in significant battles, right? So Roger, if he's not at his peak yet, this is it. He will get a Haki bloom, I believe, in this arc. I believe we will see Roger's Haki explode by the end of God Valley. I think we will see the next level of Roger. So I predict by end of God Valley, Roger and Garp, they'll basically be the best that they're going to be, which is whatever Pirate King level. I think Whitebeard... You can call him Yonko level or some shit like that right now. I don't know. But Whitebeard will take... he's younger than them by a little bit, so he takes a little bit longer to catch up. The Whitebeard and Roger that we see in Odin's flashback is both of them having... Like, Whitebeard's caught up at that point, I imagine. Both of them should be at peak level. I think that's my take. So I'd say right now, at this moment, Mr. MMF2 says against Aokiji. What... This Garp is like a million times stronger than the one that fought Aokiji. Like, that's literally confirmed. Garp says that himself. That's word for word. He already says that. What the fuck are you talking about? He expresses many times that he's, like, way weaker at Hachinosu than he is here. Than he is in his prime, you know? Yeah, so that's my views. I feel like, let's call this... Pirate King level, okay? I think Garp is already basically there. Everybody shits his pants running from Garp. Rocks is also probably there. I think Rocks and Garp are probably the two strongest on the island right now. You can swap the orders, whatever. I think Roger, not quite there yet, right? People were even, even when we saw Roger and Garp clash, right? Most people were talking about how, like, the clash kind of makes Roger look like a little bit worse than Garp. Garp looks a little bit more badass in that clash than Roger, right? So I think Roger a little bit step behind, right? It's clear Rocks already respected Roger's strength and everything and considered him a rival, but I think Rocks is still #1. I think Roger at this point in time is like a little bit behind. This is all speculation, right? We could have this proven wrong next chapter, but I think Rocks, Garp, they're already at Pirate King level, whatever you want to call it. I think Roger, he's not quite there. I think he will be there. I think this is the incident where we see Roger become Roger. I think it happens in this battle. Because this is already becoming like the incident for the Roger Pirates as well, right? This is the big moment for Rayleigh, where Rayleigh wins his love, right? Like, this is probably the most important moment in his life. Gabon obviously does some shit that makes, like, Sommers have PTSD forever, so, like, Gabon probably goes wild at God Valley. Everybody seems to respect the fuck out of Roger as, like, the top dog after God Valley. I think that this is just, I think we're going to see, like, this is going to be the hardest battle Roger ever has in his life, right? So if he has if things play out the way we think they're going to play out. So Haki Bloom time, it would be right here, okay? So I think that kind of gives us an idea of, like, I think right now, Roger not quite there. I think by end of God Valley, Roger will be arguably number 1. Or at the very least, like, it'll be like, okay, he's Pirate King level 2, like, whatever, tied with Rocks, tied with Garp, whatever you want to say. And then Whitebeard catches up a couple years later. That's my take on it. But again, this is all just based on what we're seeing right now. There's obviously we need way more. Garp is Yonko level. No, Yonko level was running away from Garp. Carnage, thanks for the 2. Dragon seems a lot weaker than Luffy was at 17. Yeah, I love it. That's perfect. I really, really like that. I love seeing, like, Dragon is just a fucking normal-ass dude. Just a normal-ass nobody Marine rookie that grows into a dude who, for all we know, could also be Pirate King level at this point in time. Meek, thanks for the 5. Favorite and least favorite moment of the chapter. Least favorite moment of the chapter. I don't think I have a least favorite moment. This chapter was amazing. This was a perfect chapter. Maybe least favorite moment. It's not even because I dislike the moment. It's just I wonder if it'll lead to discussions that are not good discussions, which is like, or maybe I don't even know if Oda wants to go down this route. So, like, for some reason Oda showed that Shanks has, like, a bump on his head. Did he need to show that? Because I'm worried that I'm worried that Oda might go down the route of, like, Shanks and Shamrock are so different because of the bump on their heads, which is, like, really stupid writing. Because it's just, like, it neuters so much about the nature of what it means to grow up kind versus grow up hateful. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to critique that because, like, I don't even know if that's supposed to be a thing or not. Like, Oda could have just drawn Shanks with a bump on his head to just show that Shanks, fell down, and that's, like, natural. I don't want to turn in, yeah, Shanks equals Goku, haha. Yeah, exactly. Like, basically we're taking, like, One Piece's, like actually deep character writing and then going back, like, 30 years into, like, basically the cartoonishly silly writing of Dragon Ball Z, right? Like, Goku bumps his head and then he stops being a bad guy and he just becomes a good guy or something. Like, that's, like, One Piece is way, 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 way more nuanced and complex than that in terms of how it writes characters and the nature of good and evil, So if we're kind of, I don't know. I hope that that's not, Little Dragon says the bump on his head is to show why Shanks wasn't crying and he got away. I hope that makes sense. I like that. But already last chapter was kind of established that Shanks and Shamrock, they weren't crying as babies, and Dragon was commenting on that. But I'm not going to critique that. I just, because we don't know where it goes or if Oda makes a big deal out of it or not. I don't know if viewers are going to make a big deal out of it or readers are going to make a big deal out of it. Colin, thanks to the 2. Oda buried Shanks times Mihawk. Shanks is Oda's Goku. Oda buried Shanks times Mihawk. Wait, how did he bury Shanks times Mihawk? That's assuming a lot and not giving Oda the benefit of the doubt. Yes, I'm literally saying that's, I don't think you're listening to me. I'm literally saying I'm not going to critique that because we need to see where Oda goes with it. I'm just a little bit concerned. Like, if you ask me to say a least favorite moment of the chapter, if I have to list one, because I literally said it's a perfect chapter. If you're saying give me a least favorite moment, the only thing I can do is, like, point out a moment that I could potentially see going down a route that I might not like in the future. But as far as I'm concerned in terms of what's actually happened, it's a perfect chapter. Young Brib B, thanks for the 5. All I'm going to say is that if this was Jujutsu Kaisen or Kagurabachi, we'd see Whitebeard and Garp throw hands for 2 chapters. Yeah, but, like, Oda's got so much more storytelling focus that he wants to do here, I think we will get some fights here. I like Oda does enough. Like what we're getting so far with God Valley is basically the amount that I expected for these interactions, and I'm enjoying that. Like, if you recall, I've talked about this in past things. Like, I was worried that God Valley would just show like individual class, like what we got with Whitebeard and Roger at the end, just like a basic swords cross, some sparks come out. I was worried that God Valley would just be that, but instead we're getting a little bit more, right? We're getting a little bit more, and that's all I really ask for, which is like we're getting Garp throwing an attack and all three Yonko having to run away, and then Big Mom firing something back and Garp tanking it and then walking through it. Like, the interactions are a little bit more extended. That's all I really hope for God Valley, which is just a flashback at the end of the day, you know? Bun for Gum, thanks for the 5. Garp's officially supplant. Oh, I will say the exception is for whatever the final big battle of God Valley is. Be that Roger Garp versus Rocks, all of them versus Emu, Dami reversing Rocks, whatever that is. That big battle, my hope is that it has at least as much action as Rocks versus Herald, because whatever the final battle of God Valley is, it should deliver in some way, you know? Like, so far, like, that interaction that we got between Garp, Kaido, Big Mom, Whitebeard, you know, Garp trying to attack them running away, them throwing something, like Big Mom throws something back, Garp tears through it. That is what I would call a Marineford level skirmish in terms of like how much Oda gives us, which is like a few panels, like a couple pages of an interaction, you know? If God Valley can keep giving us those type of things, I'm satisfied. I don't expect Oda to give on like full-on chapters or whatever of like extended 1v1s, except for hopefully the important ones. If he can give us stuff that's on par with Marineford, which is like, you know, we see a few panels of Aokiji versus Jozu. We see a few panels of like a couple pages of like Marco Kizaru. That's okay, you know? With me personally. Bun for Gum, thanks for the 5. Garp's officially supplanted Shiki for having the best 1v group portrayal. Being able to hold off the Bumco for a relevant period of time is insane. Yeah. Although you could argue that Shiki then doing that to Garp and Sengoku trumps that, right? But, you know, we're not going to get into all that. Angel Rise, thanks for the 5. Captain Kidd and Captain John are both inspired by the same real-life pirates. Oh my god. Captain Kidd might really be Captain John's kid. That's hilarious. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. I'm saying thanks for the 5. Does Emu just take on Roger, Rocks, Garp, and Whitebeard? The Gods Knights are clearly frauds compared to the top tiers, aside from maybe Garling. The Gods Knights, the big thing that we have to remember is, like, they're not, like, people are celebrating that, like, Admiral's stronger than Gods Knights and everything. It's, like, fucking obviously. We already saw Gaban, like, piece up a fucking Gods Knight, and this is, like, old Gaban, right? Whereas we saw old Rayleigh, like, he can't do that to Kizaru, you know? At best, he can, like, stalemate him, you know? So, that's already pretty, like, that was clear from the beginning, because the Gods Knights, from what they represent, are, how do I say this? Like, we all already understand, right? Like, the Gods Knights, what they represent, like, they're the world government's, like, first level of top fighters, and then if you're a really fucking good Gods Knight, right, like, the strongest Gods Knight is whatever their supreme commander, right, and that guy's probably Yonko level, you know, like we saw with Garling, now we see with Shamrock, right, and then if you're a really, really good supreme commander, then at some point you get promoted to the Gorosei, right, so the Gorosei, like, it just doesn't even make sense to compare Admirals to Gorosei, right, that makes more sense, right, because the Gorosei are composed of, like, it seems like the supreme commanders of the Gods Knights over the years that have been promoted to permanent resident status, right? They get tenure, basically. Okay, so the Gods Knights are, like, they look like bums because they're being compared to fucking Whitebeard and Kaido and Big Mom, right? That's like comparing Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom to Yonko commanders, right? From what we've seen, the Gods Knights, in terms of strength, like we saw Gunko's performance, we got to see some of Sommer's in strength and everything like that. From what we see of the Gods Knights, they're basically like a bunch of Yonko commander level fighters, right, of varying degrees. You know, Gunko seems to be especially strong, even for a Gods Knight, is what's been implied so far. And Gunko seems like she's probably at least first mate level or something. But the Gods Knights in general, they should be around like Yonko commander level, whatever. It's like a big Yonko crew. They're basically like a giant ass Yonko crew. Their captain, supreme commander, Garling, Shamrock, whatever. We can assume he's like Yonko level. He's like the Yonko of the crew. And then, yeah, it's just a system where like over time, the strongest gets promoted to Gorosei status, and then we keep it moving, So it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense to call Gods Knights fraud. Like, they're only frauds if you like randomly declare them that they're supposed to be admiral level or something, but the story never implies that. Amr Yasser, thanks a lot. Silly idea. If in an alternate world, instead of Straw Hats, Oda based his main characters on a character design / group of your choice, who would it be? I'd pick one of the Phantom Troop, Stewie and Brian, or Rush Hour Duo. That's really fucking random. Okay, hold on. Bases MCs on a group of... You'd pick one of Phantom Troop, Stewie and Brian, or Rush Hour Duo. The Teen Titans. I don't know. Teen Titans from the kids show that I used to watch when I was a young boy. Let's say that. I don't know. Or maybe some other anime manga group like I like the Black Bulls from Black Clover. Maybe them. I don't know. What's funny? So watching Dandadan right now, so I'm caught up through season 2, and I like how Dandadan is assembling its main cast. I think that's one thing I really enjoy. It feels One Piece-esque. I like that each member feels unique. It's doing it at a pretty rapid pace. That's something that One Piece did that I don't think any other series will really try to replicate, which is like One Piece really added its pieces one at a time over a long, long period of time to complete its squad. Whereas nowadays you'll see like stories like they kind of want to have the squad already good to go in a rough draft version from the beginning, again like the Black Bulls or like Fire Force's Squad 8 or something like that. Dandadan's doing it kind of like One Piece, but it's doing it fast, where it's like add in character, but I really like the way it's doing it, and it feels like a lot of time is spent on just slice of life interactions to give us a feel of the crew. I think it does that even more than One Piece did in early days, arguably. But I prefer One Piece's sense of adventure in terms of how it's collecting its crew, so like strengths and weaknesses. But anyway, Garp Chamber, thanks for the 5. If Whitebeard can tactically retreat here, you can't hold that against Sabo, Law, and Sanji. Those 3 would also fight anyone if they had to, like Whitebeard. The difference is that the simple difference is that they'll run no matter what. They've never had a single moment of like Sanji, let's say, is different. But Sabo and Law, they've never had a single moment in their lives of really like displaying significant crazy willpower. Every single character that we've gotten extensive screen time of that has shown Conqueror's Haki has extreme displays of willpower and bravery, including Whitebeard throughout all of Marineford. That's the thing that's missing. Everybody tries to argue like why I can't disqualify Sabo or Law or whatever from having Conqueror's Haki for some reason. That's stupid, because what you need to actually be doing is making the argument why they should have Conqueror's Haki. You need to provide the evidence first, okay? I don't think there's hard and fast rules in terms of like, okay, you want to argue like, well, technically this character, he retreated here or did this here or whatever. Like, you can do that. One Piece is a story with like thousands of chapters. You can do that for like days, right? Find me examples of like, Zoro's nothing happened, or Luffy everything he did over the course of the Marineford arc, or like Whitebeard everything he did over the course of the Marineford arc, or Ace's insane displays of willpower from a young age all the way up to adulthood and everything like that. Find me examples like that for Sabo and Law. You need to actually come, like, it's essentially the equivalent of me sitting down and saying like, you know what, I think fucking Vegapunk should have Conqueror's Haki. Why? Because I like Vegapunk. That makes no fucking sense. You need to actually come up with arguments for like why these characters have moments similar to other Conqueror's Haki users. They straight up don't. Sabo doesn't. You can be like, you can sit down and excuse why Sabo ran away so much. That's fine. Okay, you could do that. But show me the examples of him actually displaying the crazy willpower that Conqueror's Haki users have. That's the piece that's missing. It's just like, you're basically sitting there and basically being like, well, you can't prove that Sabo doesn't have Conqueror's Haki, so I win. It's like, motherfucker, like, come up with an argument for why he should outside of, I like Sabo and I think he's cool. Come up with an argument outside of that. Something beyond, I like Law and I think Law is cool. Willpower. Luffy climbing up motherfucking Drum Kingdom. Stuff like that. Zoro, nothing happened. Willpower. Find shit like that. Stuff that's otherworldly willpower. That's what Conqueror's Haki ultimately has to feel like, you know? Little Dragon 21, thanks for the 20. As someone who has been defending Garp's strength for years, these chapters have been amazing. 3 Yonkos to be sweating and no sold Big Mom's blast. Also, Dragon is becoming one of my favorites, especially after this chapter. Dragon is low-key the MVP writing-wise of this whole God Valley incident so far. We have never seen a character be that introspective and that morally accountable in One Piece in the way that Dragon has. Like, genuinely, this is Oda tapping into some type of writing that you normally never see, you know? Just him lying there and explaining, you know, just him lying there and explaining, thinking to himself, I deserve this is my atonement, yada yada, him just all of the realizations that he's having, you know, I am responsible for genocide, I'm on the side of evil, this is wrong, this is what I deserve, all of those things. Most people don't have that level of self-accountability and reflection. If they did, then the world wouldn't be the way that it is today, right? Dragon's having that makes him a very special character in One Piece. To be on that side and still realize, and still have the reflection in the moment, while you are potentially going to die, to realize that this might be what you deserve. Dragon's amazing. Dragon is elevating fast to one of my favorite characters in the story. If only he wasn't so dumb. Newspaper propaganda. Dude. Just a dozen ducks is introspective. Dragon, now we know why he's always thinking. Yeah, he's got too much he's got too many thoughts for One Piece characters. Because One Piece characters, that's the cool thing about One Piece characters, but it's also the thing that can make it a bit of a mixed bag, which is a lot of here's what makes Dragon feel a little bit different. A lot of the strongest One Piece characters, Oda likes to present them as characters who are very firm and absolute in their beliefs and way of life. Does that make sense? Roger, he rolls up, he's I'm the freest, no one can control me, that's the way I live. Whitebeard, he's just he has his set of values, he's my family is what matters, that's all I care about. They're very composed and already set in what they know matters to them and the correct way to live in their mind. Same thing with Shanks. Anytime Shanks shows up, he's spouting off proclamations about right, wrong, this, that, etc. They know the path that is correct and they adhere to that path, their own version of the path, and they adhere to their values in a very strong, profound sort of way, right? Dragon, I like that. I assume adult Dragon is like that, but I really love that we see him at his youth as a character who's very lost and doesn't have his way. It's kind of but he's figuring it out, and the thing that makes him different is the willingness to think for himself, free himself from what others around him are telling him. The only reason he's in the Marines right now is because of his dad, right? Luffy very possibly would have grown up to be a Marine if he hadn't met Shanks. That's at least what Garp thinks, right? I imagine Luffy would have quit the Marines very fast too. Actually, I don't think Luffy would quit the Marines. I think the Marines would kick him out day one. I think I don't think Luffy would even get to the point where it's him having to deal with some moral dilemmas. You just look at how Luffy did day one as a line cook or waiter at Baratier. He's not lasting one day in the Marines. They're kicking him out. They're kicking his ass out. So there was no future for Luffy in the Marines from the get-go. But Dragon, yeah, I just like seeing that he is going in as basically a wide-eyed little kid who doesn't know any better, but his heart knows what is correct and incorrect, and he's figuring it out, and he's coming to the conclusions of what his path and his values are in real time. I really, really like that writing. And it's a sharp contrast to Luffy, because people talk about Luffy at 17, like somebody mentioned earlier. Luffy at 17 seems to be a lot stronger than Dragon at 17. In One Piece, a lot of times, the strength of your conviction and will, Luffy was a more fully formed character at 17, in that the Luffy that sets off at 17 isn't too different than the Luffy that we have today. He's just gained some experience and understanding of the challenges before him, but Luffy doesn't change that much fundamentally as a character. His worldview and his philosophies and his view of right and wrong doesn't really shift. Like, he already knows what he wants to be. He wants to be king of the pirates. He wants to be the freest man on the ocean. He wants to protect his friends. That's Luffy. And he's always going to call out right and wrong when he sees it. So he knows that all from the get-go. So that's why, like, yeah, Dragon at 17 doesn't compare to Luffy at 17 because it's symbolic in a sense that Luffy was already this force of nature, like this symbol of freedom from the moment he left the island. He was already there. Dragon is a more normal person who is like just a 17-year-old who has to slowly become the force of nature that he becomes later as he has these realizations, shifts in perspective, all of those things. So I like that contrast. I like that the father is very different than the son in that sense, and different than his own father too. Yeah, he gained experience and matured a bit. Yeah, Luffy's definitely a better captain, but he's not fundamentally different in terms of like his moral philosophies, his worldview, things like that, you know? Eric E, thanks for the 5. Glad you get the Whitebeard scars on his back issue. I wonder how many people had this problem when Zoro ran from Crocodile to help Vivi in Alabasta. Yeah, it's just like you're not going to be involved in every single fight. There's a lot of times that in general, you know, obviously Zoro says scars on the back are swordsman's shame. That's when it comes down to like actually being in a duel and everything. There's a million times that Zoro has had to run away along with the rest of the Strides, you know? Nervain V-Maker, thanks for the 5. I think normal Roger is near equal to Garp, but can surpass him if his friends are in danger. That's what I always used to believe as well. But now I'm not so sure. Because Garp is a fucking... Like, it's funny because, like, Garp explained that Roger would turn into a demon when his friends are in danger and stuff. And I'm like, damn, that's crazy. Garp's already a demon. His resting phase, like his resting form, normal Garp is a demon. Like, you saw that dude that came out of the smoke, right? Garp is the devil himself, as Shinja said. So, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm sure that... Look, we're all caught up in the hype. I might be singing a different tune once we get to the end of God Valley and Roger's shown everything he can do. Again, I personally believe that Roger's set for a major Haki bloom by the end of God Valley. So, you know, we got to wait and see. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know. Like, I do feel like Garp at this point in my mind, I feel like he is supposed to represent what Prime Luffy is going to look like, just minus the fruit, right? I think Prime Luffy, if you just have base Luffy at the end of the day, like, no gears are allowed, no gear 5th, no gear 2nd, nothing, no fruit, right? Base Luffy is just history's strongest fist fighter, a.k.a. Garp. I think that's what it looks like. Still Pirate King level, all on his own with just straight hands. The Lowman, thanks for the 5. Garp saying he got much weaker seems to be more of a comedic relief rather than him saying he got way weaker. That's insane, Cope. What? You know how old the dude is? You know how old that dude is? What the fuck? Garp is way weak. Garp is way... What? I don't even know how to describe this level of Cope. Like... You think Garp is still in his prime at age 80? What the fuck does that even... I don't even know I don't even know how to address that. Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. Like Gramps and Father... I mean, Whitebeard even says that Garp has declined at Marineford. Like, everybody knows that they're not as strong as they were at one point. Anyway. Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. Like Gramps and Father, like grandson and son in their aura and vulnerability. Yeah. Facing Emu and lackeys causes Haki bloom in the 2 greatest threats. I do think that we will get to see Haki blooms, like a big Haki bloom for Roger. I don't know for Garp, because I feel like Garp might already be at his peak level at this point in time. I think it's possible Garp might already be at his peak level. It's hard to say. Let's get the streamlights up to 150 real quick. Again, from Garp and Roger's clash that we saw, right? To me, it looked like Garp got the better of that, right? It didn't look like a clean tie like, let's say, Roger and Whitebeard did later on. So I feel like Garp might already be at his peak and Roger's still got a bit of room to grow. I might be wrong. When I say Roger and Whitebeard's clash, I'm referring to an Odin's flashback. Carnage, thanks for the 5. We got Rayleigh and Shaki's ending, but soon I think we will. But soon I think we'll see the flip side. Rox and Eris' story ending in tragedy. Oh, that is a sad but really good point. That's a really good point. I didn't think about that shit. Yeah, that is gonna end in tragedy, isn't it? Also, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Little Dragon 21, thanks for the 5. Also, Dragon seeing Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido as monsters to then have these monsters see Garp as the monster was awesome. Yeah, it's just such a cool scene. It's just such a cool scene. It's also funny because like Garp calls them, what does he call them? He calls them in the TCB translation. Yeah, it's just like there's always a bigger fish. Yeah, he literally calls the Sea Kings. Which is funny because, like, they do later on go on to become Emperors of the Sea. Obviously, that's not what Garp's referring to here. It's just funny. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. The Final Storm, thanks for the 5. If Kid allies with Crossguild, he helps Buggy find John's treasure with the armband that can only be activated by the Magnet Fruit, which John may have had. That's a really, really interesting possibility. The one thing I would say is that, I mean, I've always liked the idea of, shit, that's a really cool idea. That's a really, 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 really cool idea. The Final Storm, I am going to write that down. If that ever ends up in a video, don't worry, I've got you credited. But that's a really, really interesting point. But I've kind of, I mean, I lean towards Kid creating his own group with Law, personally. I don't know if Kid would join Crossguild, but maybe he would. I mean, Crossguild would be a nice haven. If Kid and Law join Crossguild, then Crossguild is kind of just ridiculous. Is Crossguild the strongest crew at that point? Let's say Mihawk cancels out with the other Yonko. We don't want to get into all the details of that. But then after that, you got, like, Kid and Law, who are both, like, first mate type characters. At least, right? And then you've got Crocodile, who I think it's ambiguous, but he could be first mate level at this point, you know? Like I think that's just kind of absurd for Crossguild. That'd be kind of crazy. Henchme976, thanks for the 2. I'm sad we didn't get to see Bogard beating Whitebeard this chapter. Yeah, it's Bogard fans just keep holding out. It'll happen one day. Let's get the stream likes up to 150. Why does Garp keep Bogard around? Does he know that there's other better Marines that he could use? I'm saying thanks for the 10. I don't really mean that the God's Knights are frauds in general. My point is that they're clearly not enough of a threat to the pirates at God Valley. And if Emu shows up, do you think it'll be just him versus everybody? Yeah, I know you. I get what you're saying. But that's what's really interesting, which is that the situation is so like. Here's what's really cool, right? The way the situation was set up initially was that we were told back in 957 was that, like, look, Rocks Pirates, insane roster. How do you beat the Rocks Pirates? And it was like, okay, it was a team up between, like, Garp and Roger to take down the Rocks Pirates. Then we get some more context and we're like, okay, God's Knights were also involved. And it's like, okay, does that mean that the God's Knights also fought against the Rocks Pirates and Roger Pirates fought against them and Garp fought against them? That seems like, well, you know, maybe that's a fair matchup because, like, I did a whole video breaking it down and it was like, if you really look at it, it could make sense. You got Roger Garp versus Rocks, Garling Whitebeard, you know, maybe Rayleigh Shiki, stuff like that. Like, you can break down the matchups and it seems like it's kind of fair. But now that we're really getting into the meat of it, and it feels like everyone's also going to fuck up the God's Knights. Like, Roger Pirates are fucking up God's Knights. Rocks Pirates are fucking up God's Knights. It's not like a team effort against the Rocks Pirates. It's really ultimately the God's Knights and the world government side that's going to suffer, right? So if we get to a point where, like, everything's going down, God's Knights are being taken down by pirates left and right, presumably Celestial Dragons getting caught in the crossfire, at a certain point, you know, Emu would have to step in or the Gorosei would have to step in. What's interesting is that Saturn should also be on this island right now, and we haven't seen him. So I think when Saturn makes his appearance, that'll be a game changer because Saturn will kind of call the shot of like, hey, we need to bring in the big guns or something like that. Do I think it'll be Emu versus everybody? I think it'll be Emu versus everybody? I think it'll be Emu versus everybody? I think it will be mainly... I think the two options that I stick to are like... Either it's Dami Reversi Rocks... versus Roger and Garp, or it's Emu himself versus Roger and Rocks. Bunfagum, thanks a lot. Since Roger's ordering a retreat, why do you think he's going to stop Rocks from his mission in the near future? He came for Shaki, she's safe. That's the big question. It might be Dami reversing Rocks, but Rocks is also talking like himself at that point, right? So I'm not sure. I really don't know. That's the big mystery. Unless Oda was misleading us with those statements, who knows? Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 10. If Sanji doesn't get Conqueror's Haki, do you think Oda will give him his own unique power that functions similarly? Not necessarily Germa stuff, but more inherent to his character, related to his flames and passion. Okay, so... given some time, I now want Sanji to have Conqueror's Haki. I'm still very confused why Oda went the whole Germa route. I just don't know why why not just... Because, Sanji, as of right now, is basically, a level 1 Haki user in armament and observation. He has no advanced armament observation. That's baffling to me because, we have had so much story time. Why not in Wano advance Sanji in armament Haki or something like that? Why instead go the exoskeleton route? That's what's really confusing to me. That's just what's really confusing to me. I get it's also to have some character stuff come up for Sanji, but you could have that character stuff come up. You could have Sanji reject Germa's powers or something like that, and then have to rely on armament Haki. There's many ways that Oda could have done that, or also show Sanji improving an observation or something. It was Oda's strict adherence to just strangely not buffing Sanji in Haki at all ever, to the point that we still don't have a clear panel of him using even black coding, right? That's what made me feel like Oda seems to be really going hard down this alternate route for Sanji. Maybe Sanji's not supposed to have Conqueror's Haki. The other thing is that, throughout the story, with Zoro, there were, a million indicators that he's going to have Conqueror's Haki, which is, literally other people, off-rip. Zoro's introduced with them talking about how crazy his aura is, literally from his introduction. And then throughout the story, there's many, many instances of other characters being this dude seems like he should be the captain. This guy seems like the captain. Zoro literally says, he tells Baroque Works, I'm only going to join if I'm going to be the boss. Characters talk about, Zoro doesn't seem like somebody who's a follower or who obeys orders. Basically, just Zoro's innate character in terms of how people talk about him throughout the story, it screams Conqueror's Haki user, because it's literally this dude basically seems like a king. It seems like he's supposed to be the guy in charge. It's just that Zoro has found somebody he respects even more than himself that he's willing to bow down to, an even greater king than himself, right? That's the interesting thing about the Zoro-Luffy dynamic. Sanji is never talked about like that throughout the story. There's nothing that really hints that other characters or other people are sensing this type of disposition for him, or that they view him in this same light. However, that doesn't disqualify him from having Conqueror's Haki. Sanji still has plenty of moments that showcase his really strong conviction, really strong will. Again, things that Sabo and Law lack. It's just people like Sabo and Law, so they want him to have that. So just the simple fact that Sanji has these strong moments of willpower in it and everything like that, for me, it's always felt like this is the gray area for Conqueror's Haki, because it's how much, if Sanji gets Conqueror's Haki, we will get a better understanding of what types of characters can get it. But I definitely think that the argument is there, because we've seen Sanji also have really strong moments of willpower, really strong moments of conviction, and that does seem to be ultimately what Conqueror's Haki is about. It's the strength of your will, right? So I would love for Sanji to get it. I am just absolutely baffled as to the fucking like why no development for him in Haki in general? Then it would be cool to see him having developed over the course of you know, like Wano or Whole Cake, fucking Whole Cake, like his arc. That would be nice. And then I think that there is a lot of power to him ultimately, like genuinely being like rejecting using Germa's powers, right? Rejecting the Germa advantages, and instead proving that he can be just as strong with Haki alone, right? But instead, Oda's going the route of like, you know what, despite how much Sanji didn't like Germa's stuff, he is getting their exoskeleton and the Germa buffs and everything. That's the tricky thing, so I think we just gotta wait and see how it... Oh, I hope that didn't disconnect anything. We just gotta wait and see how that plays out. Do I think Oda will give him his own unique power that functions similarly? I just don't know what that would be. Fooly Cooley says Sanji comes from a family of literal conquerors. That is such an absurd, silly stretch, because, like, do you think for a second that Judge has conquerors Haki? Literally conquering things is not the definition of what it means to have conquerors Haki. That's like having the disposition of the king is not the same as like, oh, I'm like, I go around and just like murder people and take things that I want. That's not the same thing. By that definition, fucking Arlong is a conquerors Haki user. Anyway. The Lowman, thanks for the 5. I didn't say he was at his prime, but that he hasn't gotten much weaker, which is in line with Oda SBS when he says that old characters maintain strength. From what I recall, Oda's talking about, if you're talking about the SBS I'm thinking of, Oda's talking about middle-aged characters. And Oda likes the idea that middle-aged characters are, like still strong. Because in most anime, manga, etc., you know, middle-aged characters aren't the cool ones. It's like the young characters. Like most anime and manga, I do feel like there's a bit of a dichotomy where it's like you got the young stars who are strong. You know, like let's say Naruto or something. You got like Naruto, Sasuke, the up and comers and stuff, and then you've got like the old legends, right? Like Jiraiya, Orochimaru, like the third Hokage, like the geezers and shit like that, right? I think One Piece Oda likes the idea of like middle-aged dudes, like the people that are actually the strongest in the One Piece world. The old generation, they are actually fucking old. Like Whitebeard is old, he's past his prime. Garp is old, he's past his prime, stuff like that. Whereas like the characters that are in their primes right now are like Shanks, Mihawk, Dragon, Akainu, those guys. Those are like the middle-aged guys. I think Oda likes that idea. So that's what, if that's the SBS you're referring to, that's what I think I remember you saying, or him saying. And Garp has definitely gotten much, much, much weaker. Like that's like, I don't know how much clearer Oda could make it. Because like, consider this. Like Whitebeard at Marineford is way weaker than his prime, like dramatically weaker, right? Whitebeard at Marineford is like absurdly weaker than he was at his prime, right? Whitebeard at Marineford is having heart attacks. He's literally on life support, coughing up blood. He can't even use Conqueror's Haki, stuff like that. Whitebeard at Marineford, I think, like, how do I say this? A lot of people would argue that Whitebeard at Marineford was still stronger than Garp at Marineford, or at least like they're probably around the same, right? And we know how big the drop off Marineford Whitebeard is from Prime Whitebeard, right? So the same applies to Garp, right? Garp is that much weaker than Prime Garp because Prime Garp and Prime Whitebeard are on the same level, right? Unless you think Marineford Garp is significantly stronger than Marineford Whitebeard. You see what I'm saying? Like, we assume Prime Garp, Prime Whitebeard are on the same level. We know that at this point in time, Whitebeard is way weaker than his Prime self. Whitebeard still has his fruit, and fruit powers don't seem to decay. Garp, on the other hand, is purely reliant on physical stats and Haki and stuff. So, like, I figured that at best, Garp is at, like, Marineford Whitebeard's level. You know what I'm saying? Well, do you guys think, who's stronger? Who do you guys think is stronger, Marineford Whitebeard or Marineford Garp? Kind of curious. The tricky thing is, like, Garp can still use Conqueror's Haki, whereas, like, Whitebeard couldn't. But Whitebeard has a fruit, which is, like, Whitebeard's fruit abilities seem to be pretty consistent. Like, he kind of shows the same sort of feats, like, at Marineford as he does in his youth with his fruit. Like, fruit, I figure fruit powers are kind of pretty consistent, you know? Garp, he's not sick. I guess my different, like, I just view it as different because, like, Whitebeard has the fruit. So you don't really need the fruit to be. Okay, I see. So most people lean towards Marineford Garp being stronger. If we go by that reasoning, then I still think that there's a big drop-off, though, from Prime Garp to Marineford Garp, because if you're entirely a Haki-based fighter, right, like physical stats-based fighter, you're going to, like, age is going to affect your drop-off pretty significantly, right, because you don't have fruits and stuff to rely on. Similar to how, like, I mean, we've already seen, like, it explained, like, with old Rayleigh, he's way weaker than his prime. Like, it's just consistent throughout the story once you reach a certain age. Where are we at? The Lowman, we covered that. Bassam El Madawi, hold on. Bassam El Madawi, thanks for the 10. Taking my girlfriend to Japan, so won't catch the next few streams. Hey, that's fun. Have fun on your trip. I feel like Dragon is going to end God Valley losing Shanks and calling himself weak in Amazon Lily. Maybe he learns Haki from the Kuja. Oh, shit. That'd be really funny. I think that'd be a little too on the nose in terms of parallels. Just a little bit too much for me. But maybe something similar. Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. Let's get the stream likes up to 200. Aespa comeback, thanks for the 2. Damn, Dragon is a Kobe / Sengoku type, no conquerors. What? No, he's not a Kobe wait. What? What does that mean? They're all conquerors. I think they're all conquerors. I think Kobe is conquerors Haki as well. Jules Marquise Farley, thanks for the 7. Any news about the contest with all the island posters? Yes. So we actually did the giveaway. Wait. What? Hold on. Jules Marquise Farley, you're the winner of that giveaway. What do you mean asking about news? What do you mean asking about that news? So we're having your official announcement of you as the winner. We drew you on stream, last chapter prediction stream at the end. So if you want to see yourself win the competition, go check it would be last Friday's stream now. So if you want to see that, or it would be last Saturday's stream. So go check that out. And we announced you as the winner on the channel in general. I guess now it's been announced, but we were going to announce you on next Tuesday's video. So you're in there. But everyone, shouts to Jules Marquise Farley for winning the giveaway competition. Congrats, man. Yeah. Thanks for participating, man. I hope you enjoy the posters. Meek, thanks for the 2. This episode animated will be so cinematic. Oh my god. I know people are talking about, like, they should make God Valley a movie, but one thing that I've heard is that anime movies don't do as well, or, like, in general, I don't know about anime movies because there's not that many examples, but, like, I imagine that they would be very uncertain about doing a movie that doesn't have the Straw Hats the main characters. Because, like, obviously we all love the characters that aren't the Straw Hats and we find this stuff really epic. But, no, I don't think they're ever going to do this is stupid. They're never going to do a God Valley movie just based on the way that Toei does things. It would never happen. Because Toei is looking at this and, like, licking their lips and they're like, oh my god, God Valley, we can milk, like, a lot of episodes out of this. Because I figure, like, those type of canon anime movies can only happen for seasonal anime, right? Because then you can, like, instead of dropping a new season, like Demon Slayer just did, you can drop a whole ass movie for it, right? But One Piece doesn't have the luxury to do that. So, yeah. I just watched the Demon Slayer movie. Yeah, the Demon Slayer movie I thought was phenomenal. I thought it was really phenomenal. I do think it was, like, because I did feel it in the movie as well, like the pacing of the flashbacks pacing. There's just something off about the pacing of the whole thing that's hard to pin down. Because the fights were phenomenal, some of the moments were phenomenal, animation obviously, atmosphere, everything. There's just something about the pacing that was a little bit off. I can't put my finger on what it was, because I even actually went and read the manga a little bit afterwards, just like see how I felt, and I was like, well, this is the same as what it is in the manga. They didn't really change it that much. Maybe they could have found a different way to interweave the flashback, like the key flashback during the final fight. Yeah, I don't know. Eric, what's going on? LOL, Ray versus Garling Morge? I mean, we haven't even gotten there yet. We're not even at, do you think this is the end? Do you think Rayleigh just packs it up and goes home? Dude, Garling's not even at the fight yet, dude. I don't know if we will get Ray versus Garling, because I do think Whitebeard versus Garling is, like, more likely. But Rayleigh versus somebody significant will likely happen. I hope. But I don't even know what you know, that's a very premature comment considering Garling's not even at the scene yet, dude. Anthony's crew, thanks for the 5. You think Sanji will get Conqueror's Haki after begging for it in chapter 1152? I'm 50-50 on the way that Sanji's supposed to go Conqueror's Haki wise. I'm 50-50. I think it is odd that Oda had Sanji talk and ask about it first, because to me it feels like if Oda was going to give Sanji Conqueror's Haki, then wouldn't he want to do it in like a reveal type moment, like the way that we get with like Luffy and with Zoro, or like with like pretty much any Conqueror's Haki user, you reveal it in an action scene, instead of having the character ask about it. But like obviously there's a first time for everything. I don't think that disqualifies him from getting it. I think it's an odd choice for Sanji to raise the discussion himself. But maybe Oda even does like a bait and switch, because maybe Oda does a thing where it's like Gabon tells Sanji, oh, I don't sense Conqueror's Haki from you, and then that like makes Sanji spiral or something like that. And then there's some scene where Sanji has to, I don't know, save Nami or some shit, something that he cares about. And then Sanji's Conqueror's Haki explodes or something, like maybe that's why Oda's setting it up in a more roundabout way. Also, let's get the Streamlets up to 200 real quick. JP, thanks for the 20. Sanji's best case for indomitable will is how he would rather lose at times than rescind his codes of chivalry. Exactly. Not the typical Conqueror's Haki style, also exactly, but that definitely has the potential to be developed into Conquerors. Yeah, I think it would widen the umbrella of what it can mean to be a Conqueror, but not like totally change what we already understand. Like Sanji has shown really, really strong, impressive moments of will and conviction, right? It's just not the traditional thing we see from most Conquerors, the manner in which he chooses to, and the manner in which his moments of really strong will show, but it's his own style. And Sanji's always been about his own style, if that makes sense. JP, thanks for being a member for 30 months. Water7 Garp comment that he's had a small drop-off. I don't think he said a small drop-off. I think he said that it's a lot weaker, right? What's the exact comment? Let's see. People are trying to underplay Garp. No, this is the Garp Current is nowhere near Garp Prime. And Garp Current is still, I'll say it, the strongest Marine out there. Right now. Put him against anyone. Unless Akainu's awakened Conqueror's Haki, in which case Garp would bow out of that one. But I saw what happened at Hachinosu. I saw it. Garp can take any Marine Admiral while fighting off half a Yonko crew with his other hand. Let's see. What does Garp say at Water 7? Does he say he's a bit weaker? I don't think he says he's a bit weaker. Because I remember at Hachinosu he says he's way weaker. Oh man. Oh, he said my power has been declining lately. All right, so he's not specific. But at Hachinosu he says it's like a lot weaker. El Aichi Muhammad, thanks for the 10. What do you think of Imu Dami reverses Luffy? Luffy uses Future Sight and sees himself killing the crew, thus getting his final Haki Bloom that allows him to break out of Dami Reversi. I do believe, and I believe for some time, I talked about this way back in the Shanks showed us the key to Future Sight video. Or the final key to Conqueror's Haki. I said that in the Shanks showed us the final key to Conqueror's Haki video. that I think that the reason Oda wrote Future Sight for Luffy is to create a scenario where Luffy sees his crew being injured or killed or something, and then that causes his final Haki bloom. I don't think it'll be because Luffy himself gets Dami Reversied, though. But that's just me. Jules Marquise Farley, thanks for the 7. Thanks a lot. I wanted them so badly. I received the email, and I wasn't sure if it was real. It made my week. No, man, it is real. Yeah, congrats, man. Congrats. Yeah, so Jules Marquise Farley. So for those of you who don't know what's being referenced here, a little bit ago, we asked people to give us feedback about everything that we've been doing with One Dream Studio, obviously the store that we do everything with. What people want to see more of, what people really like, what people what people really gravitate towards of, what people think that we could be doing. So we asked for a bunch of feedback, and everybody that entered that gave us feedback, it was like 450 something people kindly gave us feedback. Automatically was entered in a giveaway to win the complete collection of island posters. And so we actually picked that winner last Saturday's stream via lottery ball raffle, which I think I'll probably do again on stream at some point. And yeah, Jules Marquise Farley was picked as the winner. So if you want to go watch yourself being picked, just check out it should be the end of chapter 1161 predictions. Daniel Allen, thanks for the 5. Long time no see. 20 chapters behind. We'll catch up and start following content again soon. Please go watch one battle after another. It's a masterpiece. What's one battle after another? One battle after another. Oh, it's a movie. Thriller film. Oh, Paul Thomas Anderson. Interesting. Okay, I'll keep this up. I have not heard of this. It has Leo DiCaprio, Sean Penn. Interesting. I've never heard of this. I might check that out. Possibly we'll check that out. We'll catch up and start following content again soon. Let me make sure one thing. Yeah, you've got some amazing stuff to binge. Phenomenal, like some fantastic shit to binge. The fuck? Oh, fuck. Hold on. Hold on. Sorry, guys. All right. Please go watch one battle. Okay. Yeah, you've got some amazing stuff to binge, man. Eric says, I'm just trolling, bruh. Basim El Madawi, thanks for the 2. Maybe Luffy shares his Conqueror's Haki like Joy Boy did. I hope not, man. I feel like that'd be lame. Because, like, when I see Emmet having to rely on some Haki knot, I'm just like, well, Emmet's a bum. Thank God Luffy's crew doesn't need that shit. But if it turns out Luffy's crew needs that shit too, I'd be a little disappointed. The Lowman, thanks for the 5. Kuzan says the Blackbeard Pirates couldn't kill Garp even if he had his hands and feet tied. I don't think the team effort made a difference. You don't think the team effort made it? I don't even know where this argument is coming from. You know that Garp had a giant hole in his stomach during that fight, right? And you know why that is? What is that? What? Because the team effort most definitely made a difference. You realize that Garp also had to simultaneously keep saving his subordinates from the Blackbeard Pirates, meaning he wasn't even focused on Aokiji most of the fight. There was literally only like a tiny short span of time in that whole Hachinosu raid where Garp gave his full attention to Aokiji. And he kicked his ass during that section. Like, I don't know how much clearer Oda could have made it that Garp was stronger than Aokiji. I genuinely don't know how much clearer Oda could have made it that Garp like clears Aokiji by a solid margin in the Hachinosu fight. Like Oda literally has Aokiji tell us directly, verbatim in 1126, I could not defeat Garp alone. It took a team effort. So I don't know what you're talking about. Zolden, thanks for the 5. I'm further back in the stream, so sorry if you talked about this. Do you think we could still see a confrontation between Dragon and Garling? Do you think we could still see a confrontation between Dragon and Garling? I hope so. I think that'd be really cool. Because Dragon still has Baby Shanks, but at this point, I don't know. Because the mystery is we don't know where Garling is. The mystery is we don't know where Garling is right now. Showtime 50K. Thanks for the 50. Or not for the 50, for the 20. I misread that. Morge, first time in a while I caught a stream, got a promotion at work, and have been grinding my ass off building my YouTube. Oh, that's awesome. I just became a monetized streamer on here. You're a huge inspiration. Thank you for all you do. Thanks a lot, man. Congrats on grinding the YouTube and getting to monetization status. That can be hard. Yeah, let me take a peek at your channel real quick. Oh, you're almost at 1,000 subscribers. You're almost at 1,000 subscribers. Do you just do... So you do a mix of... you do a big mix. You do a big mix. I would recommend if you really want to grow, you try to grind something consistent. I see that you've been grinding games a lot, so that could be a good angle for your live streams. For videos, it seems a little bit all over the place because you cover UFC stuff. Yeah, you cover UFC, you cover boxing, but you also cover games, you also cover One Piece, you also cover anime. Consolidate. Dig so small I piss on my balls. Thanks. But congrats on getting as far as you have, because like getting the first 1,000 subscribers is really hard. Then I think getting to 10K subscribers is also... Getting to 1K subscribers is just as hard as getting to 10K subscribers. Getting from 10K to 100K can be easier, because then you got the ball rolling. Dick so small I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. Make some of the late points taking a shot of Everclear on stream. If you react to it, double the points back. Oh, that could be fun. Yeah, that could be fun. I could do that. But then I have to buy Everclear just to have it on hand. Can I do Tito's? Because we have Tito's, actually, for some reason. I bought it for shots for something stupid. But yeah. Here, let me... Here, I can add the Everclear shot thing. I'll add that right now. Hold on. Where's our late penalties? I'll give it a shot at okay, so we already have eats habanero or similar spicy thing. That's 40 points. Morge takes shot of Everclear. That can be lower because I think having to eat like a full habanero is not as bad. Morge takes Everclear shot. We'll do that 25 points. All right. All right, that's now added to the late penalties. All right. Eric Trelato, thanks for the 5. If Emu can Dami Reversi top tiers against their will, it fundamentally breaks the story. Oda can't do it. Why not just take Kaido, Roger, etc.? I don't know. We saw it looks like Emu Dami Reversi'd Herald, so then that opens the door. It's like, because Herald's, close to the top of, like, Herald's basically Pirate King level from what we've seen, right? So if Emu can do it to Herald, then there's no reason he can't do it to other characters. Now, it's possible, what if Herald's old by that point in time? But Giants age really slow, so I don't think Herald would be old. Another possibility is that maybe Herald, when he made the deal with the world government, maybe Herald did like some sort of literal deal with the devil, because like Imu's abilities seem to like be a little bit like contract based in a sense, you know, like that's why he needs the blood from somebody, things like that. So maybe Harold, when he first made the deal with Imu during the Rocks flashback, maybe Harold literally like he gave his I don't know, like gave his blood, like he did something, like maybe Harold made some sort of magical pact or some shit with Imu, and that opens the door for Imu to now be able to do that to Harold. And Imu probably did it to Harold when Imu realized that Harold had betrayed him or gone against the deal or something 14 years ago. But this is really just hard speculation. It's really hard speculation. Eric says against their will is the key. Yeah, so maybe if Harold willingly, like, maybe if Harold willingly, did something like sign something or something like that, then he's already essentially given his will to Imu. That's the only argument I can really think of. Top tiers might need to consent to it, yeah, says the Geo. Yeah, and maybe that, you know what? Oh, here's a crazy angle then. What if Imu then, like, let's pretend Imu Dami reverses Rocks. What if Rocks did it for the sake of Blackbeard? Because we know Blackbeard's mom dies, right? But Blackbeard himself obviously gets away. So what if they've got Blackbeard? What if they've got young Teach captive? And it's just like Rocks for the sake of Blackbeard is forced to agree to. He gives Imu his soul essentially in turn for giving Teach back. And man, if Rocks only knew the type of person that Teach grows up to be, Rocks would never have done it. But I think that's a fun possibility. Yeah, but Eric, I agree that like if Haki really does trump all, and like, you know, the strength of will should be able to break through those type of like devil magic and stuff like that. I don't know. I think that would be bad for the story, so like hopefully there's some explanation. Carnage, thanks for the 5. Not a fan of Rocks getting Dami reversed. Would like to see him going out on his own will. I think whatever happens to Rocks will be Davy Jones related. That could be cool. Davy Jones related. Yeah, I mean, like people talk about like is Davy Jones' spirit still alive in Blackbeard or in Rocks or something. So I also would really, really dislike to see Rocks getting Dami reversed and then that being the big battle against Rocks. I would really, really dislike that because I would hate it for what it means for Rocks' character. But at the same time, maybe the tragedy of it is precisely why Oda would go down that route, right? Like we don't get what we want to see for Rocks, right? So there's the argument that like, you know, it has to be like that just because that's the tragic fate that Rocks ends up with. For me personally, I want to see them fight Imu. I want to see Rocks and Roger team up to fight Imu. So I don't want to see... I'm not as interested in seeing Roger and Garp against Dami reversed Rocks personally. Saeed Abdo says, did you see that they possibly enshrined Kurozumi Kanjuro in the shrine? The first kanji on the lantern in the right of Pedro's is Kuro. What? Why did they do that? There's no way. It doesn't even make sense. What? Well, I can't read Japanese, so I don't know what any of this says. I do believe that this Wano backstory will lead to something interesting. Technically, the Moria reveal is already pretty interesting to me. But I just have such lingering dislike for the events of this arc that going back to, like, now we're reliving the tragic deaths of Wano when it's like, I don't think the characters even gave a shit when, like, a lot of, like... There wasn't much fanfare when like a lot of these characters like Ashura Doji and Izzo and shit died. The Lowman, now I don't even know if you're trolling at this point. Kuzan punches as hard as Prime Garp. I don't even know what. I don't even know if you're trolling at this point. That has to be it. That's I don't even know what to say about that, Ben. We're still waiting for King to appear in this cover story, says Christopher D. Didn't King and Queen get captured by Green Bull? Let's get the stream likes up to 200 real quick. 3D Table says he's really padding the cover story too. I don't think Oda's really. I don't think he's really padding the cover story, because the thing is, we've seen so many cover stories at this point. Almost every cover story is padded. I think Oda just likes taking his time with the cover stories. Every cover story just it's usually like a long, extensive amount of bullshit, and then something, not bullshit, like it's not like, oh, this sucks, but like it's a long story with usually not much happening there. It's just, I think Oda just has fun with it. Like Beige and fucking Lola and Chiffon or whatever, and Pound, and like Jinbei with that like sea cat and stuff, and like you go through so many cover stories, it's usually there's not much substance to what's happening chapter to chapter. And then we get one maybe big reveal, or even not a big reveal, but some plot development. There are the rare cover stories, the ones that I really like, which are like, I think my favorite cover story still to this date is Strahd Grand Fleet cover story. I really love that one. Really love the Strahd Grand Fleet cover story. There was another cover, because like that's one where I think I was interested in every. It was a series of like. It never felt to me like it dragged, because it felt like every cover story was like an interesting little story on its own. So we're getting to know the Strahd Grand Fleet better, and we're changing the scenery and the characters pretty frequently. So I like that one a lot. Anel's Moon cover story is the only one that probably from beginning to end, you're just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, there's space pirates, there's people on the, like, every cover story, like, every single part of it, it's like, what is going on here? Like, you're actually, like, it's interesting information to some degree, every part of it. But most cover stories were used to the rhythm of, like, random stuff and then something interesting thrown in at the end. I'd say one exception, there's that from the Decks of the World, right? Like the 500 million berry man thing, which is like everybody reacting to Luffy's 500 million berry bounty. It's interesting because I actually didn't like that cover story as much, because I felt like everything that happened in that cover story, I would have preferred if it took place in chapters. Because usually when, like, one of my favorite things in One Piece is like when Luffy gets a new bounty, like a big new bounty, like post Enies Lobby, we actually get like a chapter or chapter and a half devoted to actually cutting to all of the notable characters in the world and getting to see their reactions, right, in like actual panel on page format. That happened after post Enies Lobby, that happened after Whole Cake Island. I love that shit. So the cover story that was 500 million berry bounty man, right? I actually was a little disappointed, because I was like, this is stuff that feels to me like it's rich enough that like I wouldn't want it as a cover story. I actually want this stuff on. I feel like we should be getting a chapter for this in in the story itself, because like we just concluded a 150 chapter long storyline, starting with Punk Hazard through Dressrosa, like a really big ass storyline to take down Doflamingo. And this is Luffy's first bounty out of the time skip. Like, it's essentially his big coming out, like, declaration in the New World, like announcing that he's back and everything. I would love to see that. Like, I don't want silent panels on a cover story. I would have loved to get that in a chapter. So I think I was a little disappointed there. And I would add the other big thing, like this, that doesn't even compare. My biggest disappointment actually added to my list of like Wano things. It's just like, I'm shocked that post Wano we didn't get reactions to Luffy becoming a Yonko, because that was probably like my most anticipated thing for Luffy's growth as a pirate for a long period of time. Because like, that's just that's the big one, you know? Like, that's the highest level you can essentially get as a pirate. Like, that's when you're, like, now a legendary pirate, basically. So, you know, it's crazy to me that we got a bunch of reactions after Whole Cake Island when Luffy got a 1.5 billion berry bounty, but then not after, like, the conclusion of the actual saga, which was Wano. You know, like, Luffy's just declared an emperor officially, like, Yonko officially, and he has a 3 billion berry bounty. Like, he's done it. He's toppled Kaido and Big Mom. Like, that's so much bigger than the Enies Lobby thing or the Whole Cake thing or the Dressrosa thing. Like, that's the biggest thing ever. I would have loved to get the reactions. I can kind of understand why, because I guess because the world post Wano is already in such a frenzied state, right? There's so much action going on. There's not as much space for like characters are already, everybody's in like survival mode, you know, like there's battles going on at Amazon Lily, Sabo and the revolutionaries at the Reverie, like there's just things happening everywhere, so there's not as much room for us to get to like, it wouldn't make like, it's easier to get shots of like people having reactions to Luffy's bounty and everything when things are peaceful times, but everybody kind of has their own major shit going on, so maybe that's why Oda didn't take time to have everyone react to Luffy's bounties, just because everybody's dealing with like a bigger problem at the moment than just like reading the newspaper to react to Luffy. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Dick so small, I pissed on my balls. Thanks for the 5. The cover story is, here's what saved Wano looks like. E.g., they ate a lot specifically because they aren't being starved anymore. Also address prejudice. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. It's just, is it very interesting to watch? No, but I'm also, that's not the biggest deal to me because it's just like, it's how most cover stories go. I feel like this one will have a big thing at the end. Shattered Glass, thanks a lot. LMAO, remember when people said that Elbaf's going to be Usopp's arc? I still think it will. And it's not like people said that Elbaf's going to be Usopp's arc. Usopp kept saying that Elbaf's going to be my arc. I think Usopp kept, like, in story, Usopp keeps saying, I'm going to do shit in Elbaf. Like, this is a big deal for me personally. Like, this is it. This is the big one for me. We're going to get back to Elbaf, and then, you know, story will progress there. So I imagine Usopp will get shit there. Lil Emu, thanks for the 5. Eris is my sister's name. Oh, interesting. I guess Blackbeard is my little nephew. That's funny. Didn't anyone mention yet how that name appears on Emu's magic circle? Eris D Tar Tartarus backwards, kinda. Yeah, I did see some people talk about that. On Twitter. I don't know how much to make of it, because I feel like it might just be like random text, but now it seems like maybe it actually has meaning. So let's see. I don't know. I thought it was just random text that like people were trying to make into a word, but now there's a character with that name in here, so it's just like fuck. The Lowman, thanks to the 5. Prime Garp and Kuzan being able to destroy the hulls of ships with just punches is an insane feat. Oh, okay. If you're getting at that, Lowman, I agree. Like, you know, if you're talking about no Haki or anything involved, just like base punching and everything, I agree. That is a really, really big feat. Just raw muscle force or whatever, being able to do that. Although, I also don't know if it's the biggest deal, because, like, there's no disrespect to Garp or Aokiji or anything. I'm just like, if I think about it, like, Luffy can also, like, because Haki's really what matters at the end of the day for that, right? Like, so Garp and Aokiji punching ships to practice, like, honestly, like, so pre-time skip Luffy had no armament Haki or Conqueror's Haki or anything, right? Like, pre-time skip Luffy was all just fists. Think about the crazy ship, like, pre-time skip Luffy punched through, like, so many, like, he basically made a mini earthquake with his punches in Alabasta. Although that involves a devil fruit, so that's not the same thing. But he also pushed apart buildings. Like, that's just through sheer strength. Like, he basically, like they said, he broke the city when he did that, right? So that's not the most insane thing that Garp and Aokiji are doing that stuff. Like, from my point of view, I feel like physical muscle stuff doesn't really matter that much in One Piece past a certain point. because your attack power just becomes almost entirely like the Haki stuff. You know what I mean? Like, once Luffy swapped from armament to Conquerors, he went from like clashing with ulti to now I can split the sky with Kaido, right? So like pretty much like 99.99% of his attack power at that point is his Conqueror's Haki. Like 0.1% is his actual physical muscle. Because yeah, like I'm like pre-time skip Luffy, I'm pretty sure we could imagine. Just look at pre-time skip Luffy's like physical strength feats. I feel like pre-time skip Luffy could be punching battleship bags and stuff too, right? That's not even to make like a big deal out of it, like, oh, pre-time skip Luffy like scales really high or Garp and Kuzan scale really low. It's more so just like I just don't think like your physical strength matters that much after a certain, like, a lot of characters kind of top out physical strength, and then after that it's more so the Haki training, right? The golden ball in Skypiea. Yeah. Spam says, so Burgess isn't the strongest? I think Burgess is a good example, because, like, he got the strength fruit, which increases his physical strength, right? And he was already physically really strong, but ultimately that's not going to hold up against, like, Haki attacks and stuff, you know? Yeah. Yeah, Eric, like, pre-time skip Luffy pushes buildings apart. So I feel like Luffy would also be punching those, like, Luffy's probably at that level of physical strength, too. Royalty says, I'm not going to lie, Garp, Dragon, and Kobe are better written than the entirety of My Hero Academia. I don't like when people say stuff like that. Like, it feels like an exaggeration. I don't know. That feels like an exaggeration. I think I'll say outright Endeavor by himself is still a better written character than any three of them. And I'm not even a My Hero fan. So, like, yeah, I think we need a lot more for Garp, Dragon, Kobe to top Endeavor's character writing, personally. JP, thanks for the 5. I think my favorite bit about Dragon starting off week is how it reinforces the whole Garp stuff about the true heroes aren't just magically born. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. It all comes full circle. I want to see some Garp Dragon interactions. Garp Dragon would be really interesting. Because I feel like Dragon's got some really strong arguments. It's like, Dad, I just watched Celestial Dragons murder a lot of people. Like, why are we part of the Marines? Like, I want to know what Garp's response is to that shit, you know? Like, because Dragon has very, like, how do I say this? Like, Luffy choosing to become a pirate and everything and Garp getting upset with that, I feel like I don't sympathize with Garp. But I can understand, like, I think I could get where Garp is coming from, because, like, from Garp's understanding, like Luffy's reasonings for becoming, like, I don't think Garp knows much about Luffy's reasoning for becoming a pirate, right? All Garp knows is, like, Luffy's a dumbass kid. Like, he just knows that his grandson is stupid, extremely stupid, and easily influenced by a pirate like Shanks, right? That's all he knows. So, from Garp's perspective, I don't think he understands much about, like, why Luffy is driven to become a pirate, become king of the seas, freest man on the seas, etc., etc. I think Garp probably just views it as like, well, Luffy's my grandson's just a dummy who, like, wants to play pirates and, like, ran off, right? With Garp and Dragon, I feel like it's much more complex because, like, Garp had Dragon in the Marines, and, like, Dragon actually has a much more, like, everything we've seen from him in the last few chapters, it's a much more nuanced, like, reflective journey to him understanding, like, it's more so philosophical, right, and ideological based, right? It's like, I've realized what the system is like, why the system is wrong, why it's wrong to be a part of the system, what I actually need to do to fix things, etc. So, like, I feel like Dragon's values are actually probably going to be pretty close to Garp's values, in that Garp also knows that the Celestial Dragons are bad. Like, I was going back to read chapter 957, like, people forget this stuff, but, like, Sengoku outright says Garp's moral compass does not align with the Celestial Dragons, so he refuses to do anything for the Celestial Dragons, right? Like, Garp can understand, likely, like, Garp and Dragon likely align on the idea that we want to protect people They want that, right? We want to protect the common man. We want to make the world a better place. I think they both align on that. And they both align on, like, we understand that the system is flawed because celestial dragons run it. And we understand celestial dragons are really bad, and that doesn't line up with our moral compass. So they're aligned on those two things. So then the only differentiation is Dragon basically being like, well, I'm going to destroy the whole system and make a new system. Whereas Garp, for some reason, is still just like, I'm still going to remain part of the system, right? So I feel like Garp and Dragon have a strong, like, actual, like, there's a conversation to be had there, right? Like, where do they differ? I want to understand, where do they differ, and why would Garp disagree with the actions of Dragon? To be fair, it's never actually been established that Garp disagrees with the actions of Dragon. I don't think Garp has ever commented on Dragon like that in a negative light either. Garp doesn't like Luffy because Luffy's just out there playing pirates, right? That's just totally different. Like, it's not like Luffy's out there trying to fix the world or anything like that. He just wants to be free and do whatever he wants, which I imagine that's why Garp doesn't like it. He doesn't know the full details of, like, why Luffy is the way he is or what his true dreams are. But, like, I can understand Garp being upset that Luffy, with all of his strength and potential, isn't trying to be a marine to help people. He instead fucked off to play pirates. But Garp should know that Dragon does want to help people. He doesn't like celestial dragons that run things. And he is trying to help the most people possible by running a revolution, right? So I want to understand, I want to see that conversation. And I want to understand what Garp's views are on Dragon, right? Ahmed Booz with a great way to summarize it. Garp equals disobedience and Dragon equal rebellion. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Ajay, thanks for the 2. Do you think Garp trained Kid Dragon? He's very weak right now. It'd be funny if Dragon was just a massive disappointment to Garp growing up. That'd be really funny. Like, he's just really weak. Because you see images of Kid Garp, right? Images of Kid Garp show Garp basically, like, riding around on a tiger that he's tamed. Like, Kid Garp is already a monster. So I think that's interesting. I wonder if it might even be related to, like Dragon. I feel like Dragon is more like a Kobe in that he started off slow and kind of weak and from a very low point, but then slowly once he found his conviction and dedication to a cause, he was able to build himself into something a lot stronger. JWP, thanks for gifting 5 memberships, man. I really appreciate it. As usual, man, thank you for coming through and gifting so many memberships. Everybody in chat, W's for JWP, as usual, for coming through and gifting the good people of chat. So many of y'all memberships over the years. JWP, thanks for the 5. King of Lightning read this chapter and said, Garp definitely... Garp is definitely top 10 to 15 of his generation. Bro, LMFAO. Dude, King... That's actually really, really funny. I wonder why, because I met King at Anime NYC recently, and King's a really, really nice guy. He actually helped walk me, because he's kind of a local. He's in the New York area. He after we left everybody else, he showed me the way to Port Authority bus terminal for me to get my bus to go back down to Maryland. King's a really, really nice guy. I asked him because, like, it was the last night that I was there. It was a Saturday, and, like, One Piece, some power scaling conversations popped up. People have the same views, same stances in real life as they do on stream and everything. But I did ask him at one point. I was like, it came up at one point. I told him, like, point blank. I was like, "Oh, you're a Garp hater, though." I don't know how this came up. I was like, "You're a Garp hater, right? Or Garp hater or something." I was like, "You don't like Garp, or you think Garp's weak, or something like that." And then King's response was something like, I forget. He said he didn't think Garp was weak, but he did think Garp was a lot weaker in old age or something, or that Garp's declined a lot. I forget. So I was like, okay, so maybe King thinks Prime Garp is really strong. But I don't know, because I think that King does underestimate Prime Garp a lot too now. Like, so I was like, maybe I'm mistaken. But if King actually said that, then I'm just like... He changed it to top 5 to 7. Look, I think... Okay, he changed it to top 5 to 7. Look, here's the thing. I think top 5 to 7 is actually technically fair because that generation is just so ridiculously stacked. Because you got Rocks... what do you call? Rocks, Roger, Whitebeard, Garp, right? all 4 of those you can argue whichever way you want, right? Like all of them at their peaks, who's number 1? You can make an argument for whoever. You can make an argument for Rocks, Roger, Whitebeard equal to Roger. Now it seems like Garp also right there, right? Like you can make, so Garp at least top 4, but then if you want to throw in like Herald, right? Herald, how do you say generation, right? Because Herald's a fucking giant. All we can really say is that Herald was that era was still, Herald was still a big player in that era, right? So you throw in Herald and now it's 5, right? So if you really wanted to stretch and be like Garp top 5 or something of that era, then I feel like that's not insulting. Yeah. I feel like in terms of Pirate King level characters, my personal feeling right now is that the 5 characters that are Pirate King level characters that we have in the story are not in order. Let's just go order of, well, it does not, no order, okay? Rocks, Herald, Roger, Whitebeard, Garp. That 5, and you can rearrange them however you feel like rearranging them, okay? Those are the 5 what I view as Pirate King level characters. I think by the end of God Valley, we might have some more light shed on maybe how it's actually, if there's disparities, if Roger gets a Haki Bloom, if Garp gets a Haki Bloom, if Rocks turns out to be even stronger than we thought, if Rocks turns out to be weaker than we thought, we don't know. But I think that 5 kind of makes sense to me as Pirate King level characters. I think characters that could turn out to be Pirate King level characters are Shanks Dragon, Mihawk. And then you've got the characters who are above that, which is like Emu, Joy Boy, I imagine, right? Joy Boy, Emu. I no longer rank Ryuma. It's pointless to rank Ryuma. I'm throwing him out. And then you got like X factors like Garling. We still don't know details about Garling. Garling, now that he has Gorosei powers, like maybe a new Zoan transformation or something. Maybe I still don't think he's Pirate King level or whatever. So like, my feeling is that like true Yonko level characters are like I don't want to get into all that. You know what? We're going too far down this rabbit hole. I think Shiki is like a Yonko level character. I don't think Shiki is a Pirate King level character. I think Prime Shiki is Yonko level. I think Prime Rayleigh is Yonko level, which means that it's possible Prime Gaban might also be that level. I don't know. But definitely Prime Rayleigh, Prime Shiki, Yonko's. I mean, Shiki's obviously being portrayed at this point alongside the Yonko, right? Like it's very, very clear. Ace novels also established that Shiki was ruling the sea along with Roger and Whitebeard. I've seen some people being like, who defeated Shiki? Who defeated Shiki? Could Shanks have defeated Shiki to become a Yonko? It's like, no. Shiki wasn't a fucking Yonko because his whole fleet got taken now. He threw the whole thing away. He threw his whole empire away because he tried to fight Garp and Sengoku at the same time because he was so pissed off. Did no one read Chapter 0? We already know what happened to Shiki. He didn't become an emperor because his empire actually fell. Shiki was essentially an emperor before the emperors became a thing because Shiki had the largest fleet. He had an emperor-sized fleet or whatever in the era before Roger died, right? At this point in time, it was a larger fleet than Whitebeard, Big Mom, Roger, any of them had. So Shiki was ahead of the curve when it came to being an emperor. Shiki just went down first because he threw it all away because he just went on like a kamikaze mission, basically, attacking Marine Ford solo. So Shiki lost everything. He was in prison for however long, right? He lost everything, busted out, and basically was like, I'm going to lay low and enact a plan later. And now this plan will never actually happen in canon because strong world shit, you know? So, anyway. JP, thanks for the 10. I've always thought Garp's harsh raising of Luffy and Ace was an extreme overcorrection from how he raised Dragon. And so Dragon probably wasn't trained up to be Super Marine 2.0. Oh, that's actually a really good, that's a really good headcanon. That makes sense, yeah. Eric says he was in jail, lol. Yeah, it's like, who defeated Shiki? We already know who defeated Shiki. Garp and Sengoku did. That's why he was in jail, and that's why he no longer has an empire. The fuck? First he was defeated by a storm, and then he was defeated by Garp and Sengoku. Justin Holland, thanks for the 5. Yet playing pirates is unknowingly positioning Luffy to be the force of nature people need, like a benevolent mafia boss or a bright Batman. Yeah, Yeah, so it all works out in the end. In the end, Luffy is going to go down the same path as Dragon, just in his own way, because he feels like it. And Dragon's going down that path more because, like, he feels he has to, and it's like his like, it's the life goal that he realized and envisioned that he needed to do. Whereas for Luffy, it's just like, I feel like doing this and this and this, and this eventually leads me to bringing about the life goal that Dragon also wanted to achieve. The Lowman, thanks for the 2, says, I'm putting Prime Garp greater than Prime Whitebeard after today. I'm not going that far. I want to see how the rest of God Valley plays out. I think Garp is clearly stronger than Whitebeard is right now. And the narrator even establishes that. The narrator literally says, in this era, Rox, Roger, and Garp were the 3 big legends. Like, this was Rox, Roger, and Garp's time. The other Yonko are a little bit younger, so their curve is a little bit behind, right? I think that we need to see what does Roger look like at the end of God Valley. Again, I'm banking on Roger having a Haki bloom and stuff, and us finally seeing Prime Roger by the end of this. Yeah, what does Roger look like at the end of God Valley? What else does Garp show us, etc.? I personally right now, I'm sitting at, like, I think Roger, Whitebeard, Garp in their, like, all at their peaks are all equals. That's kind of how I view them. Carnage, thanks for the 2. I think Garling is probably Pirate King level as well. I don't know about that because, like, I don't think Garling is Pirate King level. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Garling versus Whitebeard here. And, you know, I feel like Whitebeard right now is definitely Yonko level, so I feel like that might be where Garling ends up, being around Yonko level. Because at the end of the day, we know that Garling needs to be defeated, right? We know that Garling is likely going to lose. Maybe not here at God Valley, but, like, in the final war, he's going to lose, right? So it's kind of like the thing about the Pirate King level, the reason it feels like such a set level. Like, to me, Yonko tier feels more like a tier. Where I can say, like, Kaido and Big Mom are in the same tier, but that doesn't mean that they're exactly equal, right? Like, we can tell that there's, like, Kaido's probably a little bit stronger, right? Like, Shanks is probably Yonko tier. Shanks, we don't know. Maybe higher, maybe whatever. Maybe just Yonko, we don't know. But, like, Yonko tier can include many characters, and it's like a tier. The interesting thing about Pirate King level is that it's a collection of characters that Oda seems to love so much that he pretty much just likes to establish that they're all equal to one another. It's like Roger and Whitebeard, they were equals. Roger and Garp, they were equals. Rox and Harold, they were equals, right? Like, so it feels like it's hard to draw any sort of gaps because Oda's not allowing any sort of gaps that. It feels like there's a ceiling, and that's just what Oda's calling essentially Pirate King tier, and that's basically just like he likes having everybody there about equal. At least that's what it seems like so far. That's why I'm hesitant at this point to be like Garp greater than Whitebeard, Garp greater than Roger, Roger greater than Whitebeard, etc. Because I think that there's just a sort of ceiling that characters can kind of hit outside of Joy Boy and Emu, and that's basically what we call Pirate King level, okay? So where does that leave me with Garling? Garling is a character that needs to be defeated. So I feel like because Garling is going to lose to some character, be that Dragon, be that Shanks or whatever, I don't think Garling is like exactly equal to any of like Roger, Whitebeard, Garp, etc. Because that means that whoever beats Garling is now breaking the ceiling. For the first time, it's like a character going beyond Pirate King level. I don't know if Oda is doing that. So does that make sense? Essentially, characters that are going to lose, like a Garling, like a whatever, like a Garling, like a Warcury, like Gorsei, stuff like that. I feel like they're not gonna be Pirate King level because, like, let's say Dragon beats Garling, right? I don't think Dragon is above Pirate King level, which means that, let's say at best Dragon is Pirate King level. That means that Garling has to be a little bit below that. Does that make sense? But this is all very, very speculative. We still have so much more to see. This is just me spitballing based off what I feel like Oda's kind of been doing with these characters so far. He likes his ties. This character's equal to that character, etc. At the ceiling, he just likes everyone being equal so far. Amr Yasser, thanks a lot. What is the weakest character or faction from a story that you read, not One Piece, that can go toe-to-toe with the Straw Hats, fleet, and allies included? I don't know. I guess you could say something like weakest character, like physically. I don't know, like maybe something like Rick from Rick and Morty because of all the crazy science shit he could invent. Or if you're saying like weak, like just really human level and not like a super scientific genius or something, maybe like fucking Batman or something. If like depending on the writer for Batman, they concoct a whole bunch of shit as to how Batman could like contingency plan his way to with prep time. You know, Batman with prep time could do it. Who knows? On the one hand, Batman struggles with Bane. On the other hand, he takes down the entire Justice League. You know, depends who writes Batman. JWP, thanks for the 5. Did you notice that Blackbeard's mom is named Eris, and Eris was on the Words of Emu's summoning circle? Yeah, people are pointing that out. I don't know what to make of it. That's really, really interesting. 2, Captain John is Kid's fruit. Yeah, and people are pointing out Captain John might be Kid's father. Okay, hold on. Let me send this. Fuck. What the hell? All right. JWP, thanks for the 5. Did you notice that Blackbeard's mom... No, we covered this. Amber Yasser, thanks a lot. Do you think anyone in One Piece will survive a Mother Flame? Do you think anyone in One Piece will survive a Mother Flame? Like, survive being hit by it? Survive Mother Flame. Yeah. I don't think Mother Flames are super destructive as far as I know. The Lowman, thanks for the 5. Shanks and Mihawk are old Whitebeard victims, definitely not Pirate King level. Shanks and Mihawk are old Whitebeard victims, definitely not Pirate King level. I don't know about that. I don't think Shanks is established to be an old Whitebeard victim at all. Mihawk, let's wait and see. Maybe Mihawk's got a lot more in store for us. Jay, thanks for the 2. Shaki has low standards. Bruh, Rayleigh just stood there. LMO. I think Shaki likes Rayleigh for his personality, and he doesn't fawn over her the way everybody else does. Haven, thanks for the 10. Hey, Morge, since the thoughts that Roger might be Dami Reversi to fight Rocks, what do you think of the Dami Reversi being the reason he got sick? Breaking free of it could be the start of his illness. What do you think of Dami Reversi being the reason he got sick? Breaking free of it could be the start of his illness. What do I think of Dami Reversi? That's actually very interesting. I would never consider that. But then it's like, how the fuck is Chopper supposed to cure it? Because I guess Chopper doesn't have to cure it, but I was just like, I figured Luffy would get the same disease Roger did. That's interesting, but I feel like it might just be an actual genuine illness, because I do feel like Luffy might get something similar and then Chopper has to cure it. That's a really interesting idea, though. DuckDuck20, thanks for the 5. I wouldn't be surprised if Venus got promoted after taking down Ryuma or something. Venus taking down Ryuma? There's no way. Man, Ryuma's trash if that's the case. NewX7, thanks for the 2. Sorry for late. At Unga, thoughts on Dragon and Captain John. I think Dragon's character writing is phenomenal here. I'm really excited to see what he turns out to be like in the modern day. Like, it's got me really, really excited for the character. I'm loving Dragon as a character. Captain John, I think Captain John just tipped us off for something potentially huge with the reveal of his devil fruit. But I'm not going to get into it here because I might want to save it for a future video. Yeah. All right, everybody. I do have to wrap up stream here. So with that, I will talk to you all later. Sorry for the abrupt ending, but we did go over time a little bit. Yeah, with that, I will talk to you all later. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This was an amazing chapter. Watch out for next Tuesday's video. I think I got everybody. And yeah,